one thing I'll just run over quickly is when I put this straight edge down the wall of the chimney breast, obviously I want to be making sure I'm going to be overlapping it here, but what you also want to make sure is, I've got another little mark just there, you also want to make sure that it will also, after you've put the middle piece down and followed it on, that other piece will come around this corner as well. If I was doing a pattern paper, I'd make sure I was in the centre of this wall, but where I'm lining it, and then I'll be putting a little bit of filler up through the joints. Hopefully they won't need it, but it's just more of a precaution for me, just trying to lose any joints that we have. So that's one thing I'd just make sure of, is make sure that when you've got a line on one end, that your lining paper will be able to go around the edge on the other side of the chimney breast as well. You don't want to be left with a tiny little sliver that you just can't work with coming to the end of there. Another thing I said about pasting the wall first, this lining paper, I don't know, you're not even going to be able to read that. How close do you need to get? Nah, it's not even clear. So this paper, it says you can either apply the paste to the wall or to the paper itself. Always read the data sheet that comes with the products that you're going to use, because if you don't follow their protocol, if anything goes wrong with it, you haven't really got anything to come back onto. So what I've done here is, as you can see, I've already got quite a few drops of paper cut off. The measurements I'm working with from the picture rail down to the skirting board are 200 centimetres. That's what the drop is. In case I forget, I've wrote it down somewhere that I'm not going to be covering, rather than keep measuring it out all the time. Now what I tend to do with the wallpaper is, as soon as I've cut the first piece, making sure that that measurement of 200, which is actually overlapping the skirting board and the picture rail, if I just show you. Stay there. So we come down, top of the picture rail, I've measured that out, and 200 just sits halfway down this skirting board. You always want to leave something to be able to work with. You don't want to try and measure it from the tip of the skirting board to the tip of the picture rail, because you're not leaving yourself with any paper to work with if you need to. At least having the extra bit halfway up to the picture rail and the extra bit halfway down the skirting board, it just gives you a lot more paper to work with, if just in case things aren't too straight. And like I said, they're not always straight, so you need something to be able to work with. Okay, so I'm going to show you now just an easy method of getting some of this paper out and doing what I do. You don't need to do what I do, this is just the way I do it, because it's much easier for me and it saves quite a bit of time. I'm going to pop you into the head cam, and I'm just going to show you how I do this. Okay, so I'm starting with a new roll of lining paper here now. I've already done 2 rolls, because the measurements all the way around this room, they're all the same. For me, it's all a 200 centimetre drop from top to bottom. So you can see this little piece of tape here. The way I would tend to take that little bit of tape off, it's just coming from the top. You'll be able to see, hopefully you can. And then coming down. Not this way, up onto it, because you can rip this edge. Not that it would matter because it's a lining paper, but just come down that way, away from where the paper actually opens up from. Then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using what I've already got here. I'm just going to push them back a little bit so I can get right to the very edge. I tend to do this with a lining paper upside down, because if you try and roll it out this way, if I let go of this piece of paper, just watch what happens. Instantly it just curls back on itself. And that becomes very annoying when you're trying to get a lot of pieces together. You're constantly fighting with it. So I turn it upside down. And I will pull the bottom piece level with the other pieces I've already cut. Make sure you do get these right. If you start getting these wrong, and you keep getting them wrong. Before you know it, you're cutting pieces of paper too small you're not going to be able to use. Take it all the way up. Make sure you get these bits nice and straight, and then we're just going to drop it carefully down onto the floor. Scissors. I'm going to take a look underneath, and we're actually going to... This last piece was a little bit too big. It was the end of the roll, so I haven't actually cut it. So I'm just going to follow that one anyway. Cut it there so we know where we're at. Make sure we've got the paper running nice and straight down the table. Pull that line I've just cut towards the end of my pasting table, and to get this rough straight edge, I'm just going to push the paper along the end of my pasting table, and that there will give us a rough straight edge to actually cut to. Good quality pair of scissors like these. That's like a knife through butter. And you just follow that procedure with every roll, making sure you're getting it back so where they all marry up again. And you just keep cutting through. I mean, I've probably got a good 30 lengths of paper that I actually need to cut for this job, which will take me a little bit of time just to get those in order. But when it comes to actually getting the paper on the walls, it's going to go up there super fast. And there we go, and you can see that the way the paper's upside down, that it's not actually trying to curl up on itself, and we're not constantly wrestling with it.